skies we know that far beyond the Oregon Mountains, in the streets of Baghdad and the outskirts of Kabul, America's sons and daughters are sacrificing on our behalf, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. I speak to you today with deep humility. My grandfather marched in Patton's army, but I cannot know what it's like to walk in battle, like so many of you. My grandmother worked on a bomber assembly line, but I cannot know personally what it is for a family to sacrifice like so many of yours have. I'm the father of two young girls. I cannot imagine what it is like to lose a child. My heart breaks for families who lost a loved one. There are things I cannot know, but there are also things that I do know. I know that our sadness today is mixed with pride, that those we've lost will be remembered by a grateful nation. That our presence here today is only possible because your loved ones, America's patriots, were willing to give their lives to defend our nation. I know that while we may come from different traditions, different places, and have different political beliefs, we all, every one of us, hold in reverence those who've given this country the full measure of their devotion. I know that children in New Mexico and across this country look to your children, to your brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers and friends, those we honor here today, as a shining example of what's best about America. Their lives are a model for us all. What led these men and women to wear their country's uniform? What is it that leads anyone to put aside their own pursuits of life's comforts, to subordinate their own sense of survival for something bigger, something greater? Many of those we honor today were so young when they were killed. They had a whole life ahead of them. Birthdays and weddings, holidays with children and grandchildren, homes and jobs and happiness of their own. And yet, at one moment or another, they felt the tug, just as generations of Americans did before them. Maybe it was a massacre in a Boston square, or a president's call to save the Union and free the slaves. Maybe it was the day of infamy that awakened the nation to a storm that had gathered in the Pacific and a madman's death march across Europe. Or maybe it was the morning they woke up to see our walls of security crumble alongside our two largest towers. Whatever the moment was, when it came, and they felt that tug, perhaps it was simply the thought of a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife or a child not yet born that made this young American think it was time to go. It made them think, I must serve so that the people I love can live in happiness and safety and in freedom. This sense of service is what America is all about. It's what leads Americans to enter the military. It's what sustains them in the most difficult hours. And it is the safeguard of our people. You see, America has the greatest military in the history of the world. We have the best training, the most advanced technology, the most sophisticated planning, and the most powerful weapons. And yet, in the end, though each of these things is absolutely critical, the true strength of our military lies someplace else. It lies in the spirit of America's servicemen and women. No matter whether they faced down fascism or fought for freedom in Korea and Vietnam, liberated Kuwait, or stopped ethnic cleansing in the Balkans, or served brilliantly and bravely under our flag today. No matter whether they are black, or white, or Hispanic, or Asian, or Native American, whether they come from old military families or are recent immigrants, their stories tell the same thing. It's not simply their bravery, their insistence on doing their part, whatever the cost, to make America more secure and our world more free. It's not simply an unflinching belief in our highest ideals. It's that in the thick of battle, when their very survival is threatened, America's sons and daughters aren't thinking about themselves They're thinking about one another. They're risking everything to save not their own lives, but the lives of their fellow soldiers and sailors, airmen, and Marines. And when we lose them, in the final act of selflessness and sacrifice, we know that they died so that their brothers and sisters and our nation might live. What makes America's servicemen and women heroes is not just their sense of duty, honor, and country, it's the bigness of their hearts and the breadth of their compassion. And that is what we honor here today. Oliver Wendell Holmes once remarked that to fight out a war, you must believe something and want something with all your might. The Americans we honor today believed. Sergeant Ryan Jopek believed. Ryan was just weeks away from coming home when he volunteered for a mission to Mosul, from which he would never return. His friends remembered his easy smile. I remember Ryan because of the bracelet that his mother gave me that I wear every day. Next to his name it reads, "All gave some, he gave all." It's a living reminder of our obligations as Americans.
This is
to
a great
serve
video.
Ryan and his compatriots as well as they have served us, as well as the wounded warriors I had the honor of meeting at Walter Reed have served us, as well as the soldiers at Fort Bliss and the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan and around the world are serving us. That means giving the same priority to building a 21st century VA as to building a 21st century military. It means having zero tolerance for veterans sleeping on our streets. It means bringing home all our POWs and MIAs. And it means treating the graves of veterans like the hallowed ground it is and banning protests near funerals. And it also means something more. It means understanding that what Ryan and so many Americans fought and died for is not a place on a map for a certain kind of people. What they sacrificed for, what they gave all for, is a larger idea. The idea that a nation can be governed by laws, not men. That we can be equal in the eyes of the law. That we can be free to say what we want, write what we want, and worship as we please. And we can have the right to pursue our own dreams, with the obligation to help our fellow Americans pursue theirs. So, on this day of all days, let's memorialize our fallen heroes by honoring all who wear our country's uniform. And by completing their work to make sure America is more secure and our world is more free. But let's also do our part, service member and civilian alike, to live up to the idea that so many of our fellow Americans have consecrated. The idea of America. That is the essence of patriotism. That is the lesson of this solemn day. And that is the task that lies ahead. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.